Our next speaker is Toastmasters International past International President Richard E. Peck. Richard brings with him a vast array of knowledge from his experiences in both the corporate and the non-profit arenas. During his 33-year tenure with the Telecommunications Corporation, AT&T, he was involved in project management, process improvement, and leadership development. After a brief period of retirement, he's back working in corporate world, helping with process improvement and team development. In 2006, Richard joined Toastmasters International to improve his communication skills, but quickly found himself on an unexpected leadership journey. How many of you can relate? During 2020 to the 2021 Toastmasters year, he took on the mantle of International President, leading this global organization that we all love. With more than 360,000 members through the height of the pandemic. In an unexpected turn, he was appointed acting international president during the 2021-2022 Toastmaster year. Richard now holds the distinction of being the longest serving elected member of the Toastmasters Board of Directors. Richard has presented in over 140 countries across 5 continents on topics ranging from owning your past to strategic planning for personal success. He's a student of word cultures and a co-author of Poking the Cadaver, a forensic approach to public speaking. Sounds like something we all want to include in our reading material. His mantra is, leadership is not about being in the center of attention. Leadership is about being the epicenter of action. His journeys have not necessarily been what he expected, but they are his. He realized that he had 2 choices, the same as we have, fight or embrace it and enjoy it. He started by fighting it, but quickly realized that it was much more enjoyable to embrace it. So team District 84 and beyond, please join me in welcoming past International President of Toastmasters International. We have the honor to have with us today, Mr. Richard E. Peck. The journey is all yours. Don't fight it. Enjoy it. Richard, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Maria. It's great to be with you today, to see so many of you that I have known for years, to reconnect and to connect with new individuals who I haven't met before. Maria had sent me emails about attending, and I really didn't know who Maria was up until now. And I thank her for this invite, and it's an honor and privilege to meet with you today. Let me ask you a question. How many of you, when you started your Toastmasters journey, are exactly where you expected you would be? No, I'm not seeing a lot of hands. How about your corporate life? When you started your corporate life, are you exactly where you thought you would be now in your corporate life? Personal life, relationships? Why is that? Well, for me, what I started out doing in both my personal, my corporate, and my Toastmasters journey was to script it from point A to point B, or point Z along the way, whichever. And we all look at our lives as a straight line approach. The problem is, life doesn't see it that way. It doesn't see the world straight lines. It sees it as bent, twisted, shaken up. How many of you drive a car? Several of you, good. I asked that question because I've spoken in countries where cars are not the primary mode of transportation for people. Have you ever gotten into a detour, taken a wrong turn when Siri told you to go left and you went right, or you missed the street completely? Did you find something of discovery along that detour, along that wrong road, those things that you wouldn't have seen had you followed the straight line path? I joined Toastmasters in 2006. And I only learned about it by going to a How to Become a Millionaire seminar. Anyone want to be a millionaire? Yeah, a lot of us want to be millionaires, right? I'm seeing Charles, he's got two hands up. Charles wants to be a double millionaire. And I was listening to the MC at that event, and the MC was Les Brown. Anyone familiar with Les Brown? If you're not, I would encourage you to look Les up. Great motivational speaker, great person overall. I've had the chance to speak to him a number of times over the years. After going to How to Become a Millionaire seminar, anyone want to know how to be a millionaire? I got the secret. Be the guy on the stage selling the product in the back of the room to the person sitting in the audience. See, I made them a lot of money. I made nothing for myself. But I got to speaking to Les in the hallway afterwards. It chance coincidence. And he asked me if I had ever thought about getting into public speaking. Now, to be honest, that sounded terrifying, right? Getting up in front of people and speaking just sounds terrifying. The title just sounds terrifying. Public, not for me. And I told him that. I said, listen, I'm really not interested, not what I was here for. But I thanked him for his time and his insight. And he gave me his business card and I gave him mine. Went back to my office, and a couple of weeks later, in my what I would call the gopher cubicles. You know the gopher cubicle, the one where your head pops up and it goes back down every once in a while as you're looking to see who's going around, but you're trying to hide in there so no one can see what you're doing. I decided I needed to call him and ask what he was thinking when we had that conversation. So I called him up and I said, I don't know if you remember me. He says, I remember your voice. I know exactly who you are. He said, well, you had mentioned public speaking. What would somebody do if they wanted to do that? And the first words out of his mouth without hesitation were, join Toastmasters. And still not sure I want to do this. That's not the way I scripted my life out. But I found the club and I joined. And like many of you, I joined for one reason and one reason only. Become a better speaker. Become a better communicator. Understanding that it's more than just the words, it's the actions, it's the body language. And then something unexpected happened. It was the club officer election meeting. I made a mistake. I left to go to the restroom. Never leave a club officer elections to go anywhere. Because I came back and I was a president. Maria Clapp, be careful. I'm giving you advanced warning. And now, what was scripted to be A to B, better communicator, now became a side road into leadership. Again, a detour not expected. And I really wasn't sure I wanted to do it. And I started off dragging my feet, kicking and screaming, going into it. And then I embraced it and learned from it and enjoyed my experience as that officer, because I realized that other people were relying on me. And we went from not being distinguished for a number of years to being presidents distinguished that year. And that had nothing to do with me. That had to do with encouraging others to go beyond where they were. Maria Martinez, Dr. Maria, I'll refer to, said stretch earlier. And she encouraged you to reach higher and higher and higher. And I do that occasionally when I do an education session, because I usually say, reach as high as you can. And then I'll go, now reach higher. And the question becomes, well, if I asked you to reach as high as you could the first time, why are you reaching higher now? And it's because of encouragement. Well, most people think that success is at the end of their fingertips. Well, if you encourage them, their fingertips get much farther out there. So I started this leadership journey and I figured, okay, that was it. I was good. And then I got a call from the district governor, your district director today. Anyone ever get a call from the district director? Yeah, I see Charles has, and Maria has. And the thing was, I didn't know who this individual was. And I'm not quite sure how this individual knew who I was, to be honest with you. And said, hey, I got an opportunity for you. Yeah, what's that? No opportunity has ever come my way without a string attached to it. I need an area director. I had no idea what this role was. I'm seeing Felicia smile. I think she's been in that position before. I agreed to meet with him to discuss it. And we met and we discussed. To this day, I'm not sure if he told me exactly what I needed to know about that job or what he knew I needed to hear to take that job. And I know some of you are in that same position, but now I'm on district leadership, another detour, and I can't speak in speech contests, and I love competing. So I took on that role. And I'll be honest with you, I stunk at that role. I came into it halfway through the year, knew nothing about it, didn't go to training in advance, didn't have a transition, but I embraced it because it was part of my journey now. I didn't necessarily enjoy it that time, but I served again the following year to be able to have a full year's experience, and I enjoyed it a little bit then. But you can see that what started out as straight line scripting from A to B is no longer A to B. It's A via New Mexico, back to Connecticut. It's the craziest thing. And then I continued to serve in district leadership. Again, not being able to compete. I didn't like that at all, but I helped. But an odd thing happened in 2009. 2009 was when I was going to become your club growth director as you have it now. And the election was in May. And in April of that year, I was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer. An unexpected journey. And I had to make two choices. One, to give up on my leadership role because the election hadn't happened yet, and let those individuals down who were relying on me, or accept it and just move forward. And I accepted it as it is what it is. I didn't ask for it, but I was either going to let it define me or I was going to define it. That was the only two choices there. And I wasn't going to let it define me. So I went on to become a trio member. And then I went to serve on the board of directors. As many of you heard, I'm now the longest serving elected officer on the board of directors. I can't believe it's been 10 years. But the reason I bring up that story of the cancer was because although I accepted it, I never owned it as part of my journey. And I think oftentimes we don't do that. We don't own the things that are in our lives. We try to avoid them. We try to conceal them. We try to hide them. As leaders, that's the wrong thing to do. We do it because we're afraid that people look at us as vulnerable. But we need individuals to look at us as leaders and as people and accept us for who we are. We're not always going to get it right. But I was speaking at my alma mater in Dallas after that, and I had never shared that story from the stage. And then I decided it was time to own my past. Then I gave a speech, I gave a keynote on owning your past. And I spoke about it for the first time in a long time. And I got off the stage, and as Toastmasters do, they clapped and they shake your hands and great job. But I had an individual come over, put his hand on my shoulder and said, thank you. And I turned to him and I said, well, what are you thanking me for? He said, I'm getting ready to go through that same surgery. And it was nice to be able to hear it from somebody else and to be able to connect. Again, an unanticipated side of the journey. If I had never shared that story, somebody else would have never gained from it. Each of us has that opportunity to help others, to encourage them, to help them along their journey. Now in 2020, in August, I became the international president of this organization. If someone would have said in 2006, you are going to become an international president, I would have looked at them and told them they were crazy. Again, not in the script. A to B. Not only was not being the international president in the script, not doing it during the heart of the pandemic was not in the script. And I could have looked at that and said, wow, what are the things I'm missing out on here? I don't get to have a convention in person. I was supposed to be inaugurated in Paris, France, the first president from North America to be inaugurated outside the country. There were going to be no district visits, no celebration. Wow. Do I really want to do this? And I went back to my philosophy of either you fight it or you enjoy it and embrace it. And I decided that I was going to find a way to make this beneficial to those around me, not just me. And I came up with this crazy idea of an international president's world tour. And in that world tour, I was going to speak to a club in every country in which we had a club. And at the time, that was 143 countries. And now was I just going to show up? Because as leaders and as members, we can show up at any club we want to until they tell us to stop coming. But I was going to take on a role. And I wasn't going to tell them what role I wanted. I was going to let them tell me what role they wanted me to take. 85% of those visits of the 143 were pathway speeches. I think people just love the fact of giving an evaluation to an international president. But I got to see individuals where they were. I got to meet in people's homes because they were in lockdown. I got to learn about countries and cultures and nationalities and words. Things that we don't get that opportunity to do. And you can look at this living in these little boxes on the screen as a trial and tribulation, or you can embrace it and use it and enjoy it. How would you like to give a speech in another country and get feedback? Are my words coming across the same? Is my body language saying the same thing? How'd you like to give an evaluation to a speaker in another country? How cool would that be? I know Tom Hobbs has done that before. He's spoken in many countries and gotten those feedbacks. Fight it or embrace it and enjoy it. There's only two choices. If you fight it, you're going to miss it. I tell individuals all the time, if you keep looking at the challenges, you'll never see the opportunities. Never. because you're too busy focused on the negative, not focused on the positive. And in every situation, there is a positive. It may not be the huge, big, grandiose positive that you think it will be. It might not even be a positive for you. It might be a positive for somebody else. Cancer wasn't a positive for me, but the story was positive for somebody. They say that if we feel pain, it's because we are alive. If we feel loss, it's because we had something. If we feel regret, it's because we missed an opportunity. Every time that you were fearful of trying something, you have that missed opportunity. My journey is just a small one of the many journeys that are on this call today. And I would encourage you to share them. I would encourage you to find individuals who are fearful of trying something new, are fearful of taking a journey, are fearful of going off that straight path, and share with them the joy that comes from it. My journeys are my journeys. Your journeys are yours. But no one's journey is alone. Madam Toastmaster.